right. Are we?
You could raise that mic though.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd appreciate everybody's assistance raising and lowering that mic when it's really required, when height varies significantly.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
All right.
We're there.
All right. Very good. So, hello everyone, and thank you for coming to our book release celebration for Neely Tchaikovsky's The Portrait Gallery Called Existence. And this is the first of two events for this book that we're launching it with. There will be a reading in the alley next to City Lights on Thursday, August 21st at 6 p.m. So I invite you all to that as well. And I'm very excited to finally launch this book. Came back from the printer about a month ago, and just been waiting to send it out there. So I wrote a little introduction for us. Tonight we celebrate the release of Neely Tchaikovsky's final book of poems, The Portrait Gallery Called Existence, published by City Lights. As a friend of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, not to mention Allen Ginsberg, Gregory Corso, Philip Lamantia, Bob Kaufman, and Jack Hirschman, to name a few, Neely wanted nothing more than to have a book published by City Lights. And while I was very sad he passed away before we were able to realize this ambition, he was aware and excited that the project was imminent, and I feel like it brought him a great deal of joy nonetheless. Once we asked him for a book, he spent the rest of his life about to be published by City Lights. It's not a bad note for a poet like Neely to go out on. Something of a child prodigy, the LA-born Neely published his first poems as a teenager and was befriended by no less a personage than Charles Bukowski, with whom he collaborated on a literary magazine, Laugh Literary and Man the Humping Guns, which definitely ranks among the great periodical titles in literary history. Coming to San Francisco in the 1970s, he immediately became an integral part of the North Beach poetry scene. For a time, he inherited the rotating editorship of Beatitude, responsible for the splendid Bob Kaufman issue of 1979. He would later help Tate and me put together the collected poems of Bob Kaufman for City Lights. Though in practical terms, his assistance was largely spiritual. I'm sure he made appearances in some of the City Lights periodicals over the years, so he's already on our list. But a book of poems was the Holy Grail, and so we're here tonight to lift it in tribute to Neely. I'll give you a word about this book. My boss at City Lights, Elaine Katzenberger, she suggested we do a collection of some of Neely's portrait poems, which, like myself and others in this room, she occasionally received in her inbox. He was known as a biographer and memoirist, thanks to the biographies of Bukowski and Ferlinghetti, and his great Whitman's Wild Children, in which he wrote often quite penetrating observations of a dozen or so of his poet friends. In a certain sense, you could class Neely's prose among the new journalism of the likes of Thompson or Woolf, stories of significant people and places in which the participation of the journalist himself is foregrounded. This is by no means to suggest that Neely was only good at portraying his more famous friends, but it is to say he flourished in the environment of his fellow writers. Much like David Bowie, say, he was a fan and enthusiast first, but the results of his appreciations weren't simply appreciation, any more than Bowie's are. They're not just fans. So many of his encomiums are about himself as much as they are about any of their subjects. And you could have called some of these poems Selfie with Allen Ginsberg or Selfie with Michael McClure. All of his writing is infused with his own idiosyncratic subjectivity, and that's what makes him a poet. Neely took Elaine's idea on board, and in short order, instead of gathering some of the uncollected gems from the almost daily emails to friends, he quickly wrote a new book entirely. Neely was fairly open about having ADHD, and I think he didn't have the attention span to sift through or even locate poems that were only like a year or two old. It was easier for him to write a new book, because he was always writing. But he gave me the manuscript with the mutual understanding that I was going to edit it, and unlike some poets, he was positively eager for the editorial sessions. We were scheduled to get down to business in June 2024, and he died in March. Nonetheless, I spent a melancholy June putting it together by myself. It's based on the manuscript he gave me, which was called The Ever-Thinking Eye. But I felt free to swap out poems from my inbox, and I changed the title, opting to use the last 2 lines of the book as the title for several reasons, among which was the fact that you didn't need a subtitle if you gave it that title. And it's a bit sentimental, the title, but, Neely was a bit sentimental. And reaction from his friends, I will admit, was mixed. But, I have commercial pressures that the rest of you don't. So cut me a little slack. I did what I thought was best for getting Neely out there in the world, and sometimes you got to cheese it up a little. We have a great lineup tonight of Neely's friends who will read from his book and hopefully reminisce a little bit about the poet himself. Please let me introduce, in alphabetical order, Jorge Argueta, Scott Bird, Marina Lazzara, Jessica Loos, Sarah Menefee, Danny Rosen, publisher of Lithic, who flew into town for this, and a guy named Nick Whittington. I don't know where he came from. But our first reader tonight, we will read in alphabetical order. So please welcome Jorge Argueta.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I met Neely when I first arrived from El Salvador back in the 80s at a beautiful place called Café Bobar on 22nd, and at first I thought Neely was a fluent in Spanish, so we start talking in Spanish. Pues sí, entonces yo vengo del Salvador y escribo poesía también. And Neely was saying yes, all the time, so. Anyway, it was always, he always struck me as a good-hearted person, a little stubborn, but funny, and I had never met someone. I think that Neely was one of the a few poets can do. We talk poetry, but we don't write poetry all the time. He was always writing. I mean, if he would be here, he'd probably be writing a poem. But anyway, when I tried to visit him, I go back and forth a lot to El Salvador, and one of the things I did is, hi, Jesse Cabrera, to visit him at his home, and we went for a walk on Bernal Heights, and we end up in a coffee house. And he said, my sugar is bothering me. I think if I have a little ice cream, it might help, And I said, what do you mean? Well, I gotta knock it down. He said, So he said, he got a little ice cream. He said, well, that didn't make it. I think I need another one. So he got another ice cream. He says, well, that didn't do the job. I think I need a third one. I said, oh, you're on your own, man. Anyway, I was invited to this reading by Jessica Loos, and I really didn't follow the.
Oh no, you can read anything. It's okay.
I'm gonna read from the book. I'm gonna a poem, and Bessie. I think I need my glasses here. Aunt Bessie. When Aunt Bessie died, we cordoned off the Santa Monica freeway. Traffic ran slowly down to Los Angeles International Airport. Taxi drivers rented, truckers gulped strong caffeine. We bought LSD at the California Institute of Technology from a grad student who called himself Earth Pig. A girl named Nirvana Sunset asked me to hop into bed. She did not understand Vietnam as condors soared over their own ramps, and Bessie forever chuckling, massive jaws moving back and forth, a ball of jelly. Life continued. We drove to the memorial park, digging a hole wide enough. Bessie fell. Time to mourn those babushkas who came from Odessa, hoping to turn dust into gold. Neely Cherkovsky. One of the other things that Neely wanted to do, and to me, he conquered that. He wanted to be the San Francisco Poet Laureate. So I want us to please clap for him. You know, to me he was that and more. He was a dear friend. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, I mean, I think Neely was the Poet Laureate of San Francisco, for real. Our next reader is Scott Bird. Where do we need it?
Thank you, Garrett. Perfect. I can confirm what Garrett said about Neely being able to write another whole book, as I helped him put the manuscript for this piece together, and I would call him up and give him an edit and say, how about you change this line and tweak this line? He'd say, okay. He'd hang up, and about 10 minutes later, he'd call back, and it would be a different poem altogether with all of its own edits. And I say, no, just change that line. Don't write a new poem. But it was a lot easier just to write a new poem. So I'm going to read two from this book. First one is called I Think, Portrait of Jack Aaron Hirschman. I think what happened is that I lost my bearings dreaming of an ultimate poem made of flesh and blood. I think what happened is that this poem snuck up on me while I was watering the plants in my garden. I think what happened is that my old poet friend lit a fire way up high in the benighted stars. Sure, I suppose there are dancing lions who carry hand-carved shields and unicorns smiling at green fields of wheat and alfalfa. I believe, I swear, I think what happened is that the Red Sea parted and the children passed one by one into the channel. Sure, my friend translated a Yiddish poet from the Holocaust and thought it was a river for us to cross. He dipped his poem in the stream and dreamed of carnage. I think what happened is my friend wore a slanted hat into the cafe one day, way back then when we were sleeping on the Cyrillic beds. Sure, I have an idea of what happened when my friend crossed over. It's the mountains inviting him in, the wild goats. It's a herd of sheep, a ship of wine, jars of honey on the wagon, passing our orchards. Yes, I think what happened is memories dropped out of, hey son, yes, I do remember my friend reading Russian under the lamp and arias from Giuseppe Verdi playing out on the jukebox. Oh, come, comrades, demand another dance. Sure, I know what happens. I think the wild goats stare before they nibble the grass under twitching light. I feel the power inherent in the poetic mind. Sure. Then the new year arrived, sing of the blackbird and sing for the railroad and talk of old acquaintances and returning, and yes, why not be so real? I think I know what happened down the path my friend the poet trekked. Left bold tracks, I think. What happened is that you are not slaves, and he is not a machine, and this is only a dream, a fire, fortitude, and beatitude. It looks like that was written a few days after Jack passed away in 2021. I just had a little bird land on the windowsill this morning that told me that Neely was appointed Poet Laureate of the 5th Bardot yesterday, so it happened. All right, this poem is called Yahweh. I don't want to waste your life frying hamburgers for an eternal lunch. Pickles, relish, onion, tomato. I'd rather make a barbecue on one of the distant stars and invite retired cops to choose either chicken or ribeye. I could make a burning bush and part the Red Sea and give Job a good shellacking. My name is Yahweh. This is my self-portrait. I have a big white beard and beautiful tan skin. If you think me ridiculous, just look in the mirror. I take everything personally, especially the bundled alfalfa on both sides of the highway from Milan to Parma. You killed me, but I didn't die. You denied me, but I came back. You shut the window, and I entered through the door. God is dead, you said, but then rotted like an old tomato, and I lived on skateboards in the clouds. I own a personal collection of stars and star systems and planets and black holes. I see what I do not see. I am what I am not I. If I am not God, what am I? If I'm dead, what is light like on the tip of a rusted nail at the juncture of good and evil? What brutal falsehoods glitter like diamonds? You will see me in that light, the sparkle that moves a man to tears. I never tell the truth, but I do show my wrath and dive like Leviathan into the starry blight. You disappear with your hordes of diamonds in the portrait gallery called existence. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our next reader is Marina Lazzara.
Thank you, Garrett, Tate, and Jesse, and Orion, and Eric. I am going to do this thing on my phone, so take note. I don't like doing it. My printer broke. I'm going to write something I wrote just yesterday for Neely, and if there's time, I'll read one of the poems, but I really want to read this today. First of all, I want to say I love that this book is a companion to Whitman's Wild Children. And when I first came to San Francisco in 1989, I think started New College. Anyway, I bought the book before I knew Neely, and it was just such an important book to me. So to have this as a companion. So in this little piece, I do quote something from the intro to that book. It's kind of personal and cheesy. And I'm glad that the birds came to you last night, Mr. Scott Bird, because this is about my birds. My blue parakeet passed today. His name was Luna. The male bird of my two parakeets who would sing and bring the sun down accompanied me when I played guitar and sang, best bandmate ever, and gave company to our green-yellow parakeet Aspen. Luna reminded me that many times our songs are only for ourselves, just to sing, praising the moment and the world we've created for ourselves. Neely loved parakeets. He would always talk to me about Mayan. He always asked, did you forget a mirror? Don't forget a mirror, he'd say. Oh my God, Marina, birds, he'd say. When over for gatherings, like Garrett and Suzanne, he'd sit near the birds who under their beak breaths would improv with the poets and musicians. He was the singer. Aspen, the female, his companion, gave orders, communicated with me, and made Luna work for her attention. However, now as I write this, she sits on top of her cage staring out the window, calling for Luna to come home, as do birds at sundown. This morning she called for me down the hall as she does on mornings their dishes are empty. This morning her sound was full of shorter, syncopated bird talk. Emily Dickinson wrote, I Am Here to Sing, inspired by an article in the Atlantic Monthly in September 1862 written by Thomas Higginson, whose attention she sought as mentor and publisher. It is one of the many essays he wrote in admiration for after Thoreau's death. In the essay, Higginson writes that Pythagoras has been charged both before and since the days of Malvolio with holding that the soul of our grandma might haply inhabit a fowl, that delinquent men must revisit earth as women and delinquent women as birds. Dickinson had undoubtedly read this. When I mentioned this to Neely, having used it in my thesis, he cited his inhale sigh. He knew that in the bird world, the male birds were the prettiest, had the more melodic songs. He knew the female birds would abuse their male companions until they proved their beauty the best for grooming and procreation. Luna came to us with a feminine name and we kept it. His previous owners thought him to be female. His color blue was anchored by a white chest, the moon halter, and it fit him. His song soft yet present, like the setting of the sun opening to the moon, or like the day moon, a break in the chorus of the day sky. These days, my teenage daughter's generation, they seek to go beyond gender, beyond biological roles, to be non-binary, a radical statement in a world that profits from dichotomies. Are these days our wild children? Are they part of the future that Neely's Whitman sought? In the intro to Whitman's Wild Children, Neely writes, while walking on a strip of San Francisco beach last summer, I read Whitman's lines about the genius of the modern. He felt that the poet of the future would explore the interior world of the mind in such a manner that new ways of seeing the world and of defining man within it would be born. This is close to Percy Shelley's idea of the poet as unacknowledged legislator of the world. For Whitman, every person should have the poetic voice, or what the Jewish tradition calls the still small voice within, a voice of prophecy unhammered by social and political convention, one that is constantly in flux, ever able to change, fully aware that a fixed ideology can be a deadly one, and that the cult of ideology, like the cult of personality, can turn into a tool of enslavement. Tchaikovsky. Birds, like humans, have bilateral brains. One side sings to communicate. It is more linear. Hey, I found food. Hey, don't come to this branch, it's mine. And the other sings just to sing, more creative, abstract, irrational, meditative, playful together with other singers, tracking what spontaneously comes up in the mind. I am here to sing, wrote Dickinson. Neely's place in this world was to sing, to honor a benign receptacle, a butterfly net, to catch around him what may fall through the cracks or soak through levels of soil without witness. He was here to sing songs pulling in recipients who inspired him while at the same time reflecting him. He was the songbird, like Luna, sweet singing to himself, flauntingly and with praise, and to those who would listen about all that moved around him, simmering his personal nest that today I find myself a part of, with humility and sorrowful joy. As difficult as Neely could be, as difficult as loss can be, as sensitive as I am left with the green and yellow parakeet now, Aspen. We call her Nasty Chicken because she is demanding, controlling, her song distorted and syncopated, always wanting us to do something for her, but we love her. When out of the cage, she dives at my head to fill her food bowl or would push Luna off the food bowl when it was her turn, and Luna would acquiesce. And sometimes when I uncovered them in the morning, Luna was mounting Aspen, and Aspen would look at me sideways, proud of the admiration. And tonight, we honor Aspen in her aloneness, hoping she'll talk a bit tonight to herself. In writing this, I'm reminded to write for the future of the wild children, the continued presence of birds in our lives, of my children, both human and non-human, and that through absence our hearts do grow stronger, and that through life it's a necessity to embrace the singing, even when the most horrific things are happening right now around the world and not very far from us, and that tonight will be a new environment in this house without Luna, as it has been the last year without Neely, and I'm looking forward to seeing the moon. Ah, the moon. My God, Marina, the moon, Neely might say. Thank you for letting me read that. One more poem. I'll just read. So I found myself, I don't consider myself a Kerouacian. I'm more of a Meltzerian. But I really dig this poem called Safe in Heaven Dead. Safe in Heaven Dead. For Portrait of Jack Kerouac. I'd rather get on a plane and travel to Paris or disappear in Mexico, yet I sit here in the garden growing old. I read Mexico City blues a bit, perplexed, wondering why the words we speak are made to bend out of shape, why Jack Kerouac's dour, why the people who study writing generally read more careful work. They see professionalism as a goal. I see writing as a pool of water rippling to the shore. I stand by the water. It is cold. The colors collide and become one conspiratorial force that brings a sense of mortality into focus. I see the sentimentality buried in the poem. I feel the need to trim Kerouac's prose, to forget the excess, to embrace a celebration of empty places, to kick a stone across the pages, to retake the fortress of a spooky death, his angel, brother, an early death, his own in a barrage of alcohol, and to be not quite so quick to condemn anyone who ventures onto the field, to see even those entrances I might capture, to know when it's good to lay down the pen and to touch the fire. I'd rather open my notebook to a rhododendron grove where enemies live in the shadows I cast on the dry, dusty ground. It's so good to be assessed by the silence. It is okay to be told what not to do by a God who walks in brain, to trim the hedges of my notebook until the sun is a copper penny, so fine to let words lead the mind, as if they were amulets forged by a shaman who believes in the animal he wears on his head. I read Jack way long ago, discombobulating Trek. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next up is Jessica Loos. Is that a good height? Yeah.
I think it's okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit. That's probably good.
Okay. All right.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to read the first poem I'm going to read is the first poem in the book For the Poets. 1. Nothing spells disaster as well as does emptiness. 3 a.m., long talk with Susan. That was good. Hoping for a miracle. Every word a sovereign note. These poems continue dying, no matter, no rain for months, immense forest fires, wildlife dying. We have new cabinets in the kitchen, this Saltillo tile. We ordered a fine sliding door facing the redwood deck. Lions roar no more, pandas face extinction. What am I going to do with the ghost of Paul Verlaine? Looking for a free seat in the crowded cafe. 2. It's easy being busy with home improvement and inevitable loss. Poems pass, that grace of Jack and Diane and Michael and Lawrence and Amiri and Ken and Waylon and Gregory. Oh, man, many more. Where are you, Danny Proper, Jack Micheline, Rex Rothbold, Ambitions, Duncan in a black cape on 24th Street, Ruth in Beat Heaven, Joanne on the phone. Lamantia dropped in for a potion. Somebody out there, please conjure forth a forest of old-growth wood. Alan is at the cafe. He wants to know why wasn't I at the reading the night before. May I sleep with your boyfriends? I love you, old spirit. It was always exciting sitting at your side. You were the elder. 1963, Papa Hemingway. When I'm in the car with my mother, she's humming a popular tune. Whatever happens to Edna St. Vincent Millay? Hart Crane, 32 years old, jumping overboard. The emptiness doesn't leave. It speaks at the memorial reading, just on account, one moment, then it snows or it seems to snow. Truly there is not a snowflake inside or out on the hillside where we live. You'll find a night breeze, strong trees, and the mourning dove, bungled like a shaman in an ancestral dream. And the second poem I'm going to read is Meeting Jack Micheline. 1967, I drove on Melrose and turned onto Gower, made a wrong turn, hit Sunset, where I took a right in the old Central Core. Nimble, quick I am, thinking Mayakovsky loved expansive human caprice. Jack romanticized him, I'll find out later. I parked on a dilapidated block, Hamilton Court, a truly drab facade, or it could have been Kingsblood Hotel, or maybe there was no name, just an address. I buzzed 3A and gained entrance, then climbed 3 steep stairs. The air smelled of cockroach spray, so much for LA glitz. I knocked. Yeah, a voice called out. A voice called out, moon-faced man with Bob Mitchum lips and delicate hands stood before me. I handed him a copy of his first book, River of Red Wine. I hope you're not a poet, he said, sauntering to the edge of an unkempt bed and gesturing toward a chair. I hide from poets. I prefer madmen and criminals. The poets I like are outlaws, Rimbaud, Vallon, the Russians. He waved his arms over a ray of light, flashing neon, streaming through the window. What I'm saying is, I hope you didn't bring your poems. Bukowski sent me. Oh, he's all right. I read your work in some of the anthologies, Streetcar New Orleans, and those lines, the people are so nervous. Never mind, I'll sign the book. He reminded me of Sherwood Anderson and James T. Farrell, rough American wordsmiths, no theory, just words, dropped like iron piping onto freight train flatbed. We went to the racetrack the following afternoon. Quasimodo and the Third brought us down. We left in glum silence, back to town. 53 years now, Jack long gone, Bukowski under stone. I am an elder who hobbles as he walks. Mayakovsky is a silhouette. The outlaws, oh, those outlaws. Blue moon, blue moon.
Thanks, Jessica. And our next reader is Sarah Menefee. Good height? Yeah.
Short. Wonderful to be part of this. Neely was a very dear old friend going back to 79, 80 back then. Met him on the scene. Young Eric Rambeau. Forgetting his last name, that's horrible. Yes, Eric Walker, kind of going between our paths. I think Neely was living in the Bob Kaufman apartment then. It was pretty crazy. Neely was the poet's poet. He lived poetry. That's not always easy, but he took it around the world and the decades went by. Just in the last year or two of his life, he shaved off his beard. Sonny was like a young boy again. I mean, his smile came out, and he kind of let go of that, worrying about anything. The poet laureate nonsense. I think he figured out he already was forever, and he still is. And I know he's here. And I see a smile. I'm going to read this, I Am Starving for Silence, portrait of John Wieners, just to say a word or two. One of a very fond memory is maybe the last time John Wieners, who actually from the Hotel Wentley poems way back when, that was a few blocks down Polk Gulch from where I live. So it's all about me. Anyway, the last time John Wieners was just an angel, another poetry angel, did a big, crazy reading down in the Mission with huge room full of people. And somehow we ended up in North Beach Pizza, and Neely was there. He probably arranged the whole thing. And I ended up sitting next on a bench at a table next to John Wieners. I got such pure energy from him. So I'm very happy to read. I just think the two of them were real brothers. I am starving for silence. Portrait of John Wieners. He was troubled by wisdom, whistling out of stucco and cracked paint. God fills him with nail polish and an ear for phantom lovers on narrow streets of Boston, where he crossed the schoolyard to find precious stone. Tomorrow, John is in love. He wants to pigeonhole humanity while standing on a dime. We who love him do not wait for his love. We who were children grow judicious as mist, called old age settles. You see, John came to town on the back of a lion who sang like a mourning dove. John wrote of memory, love evokes. He instructed young men and women to gather and to listen. John arrived in a small volume of dynamite gently posited. It was the age of Geiger counters and lunch counter sit-ins, 1950s Americana. I was 14 when his hotel room verse broke my eyes. He bumped into himself and died in squalor, nailing fathers to the shallows. He picked up many things from the brick oven, giving them language you carry as if it were gold. You must know a few things and hold them carefully, cautiously. Don't trust anyone over 200 years of age. Write joyous praise of youth, for in this country it is terror. Irish eyes, ragged clothing. God knows he tried. Skinny little room on Beacon Hill. He said, "Oh, Mr. Tchaikovsky, thank you for your poems." I thought he might be a citizen of Rome in the days of Catullus, Boulevardier, of that ancient citadel. Goofy eyes, beautiful lips, soft-spoken. How do you do? And let me see, on page 86, which is really the poet's number. Okay. And this is called 78 Years, which is my year, and I'm catching up with him now. He was always a little ahead of me in many ways. Okay, a lot ahead. Okay, 78 years. Memories of the oh boy, he was so much better reader than I am. Memories of the dilapidated Greyhound bus station limit the view. You'd go down there like a conqueror, dreadlocks askew. The town was decaying. Colorful strips of death abounded. Woodfinch and grackle sparred. The YMCA showed old comedies. Boys with rotten teeth were around to gather for a game in the tetherball yard. 2 days later in the Rocky Mountains, a blizzard tore off the face of the President of the United States. Coffee came in styrofoam cups. The boogeyman with a white beard passed around a bottle of whiskey. You need to stand aside for the snowplows. They will do the job, and then the engines will turn. Squirrels will dance, designed to rain. Waitresses talk of bingo games and capital punishment. 60 years later, I feel like an old man listening to John Coltrane on a cheap radio. Somebody powerful pours tequila over concrete and cracked asphalt. Tarantula and scorpions square off. Cold draft from the ample arms of Walt Whitman, everything abuzz. Dreams died in the mud, an oil pool, love sucked into the tar. Try to be an American Indian on the far end of the Little Bighorn. Try to be George Armstrong Custer, cut down by Crazy Horse just prior to dropping bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What if you were a 13-year-old boy in the Buchenwald death camp? What if a man in uniform urinated on you and then blew your brains out? How fortunate I am with an archive at the Bancroft Library, UC Berkeley, books with my name on the cover in many foreign tongues. I had no respect for those who tortured the rose. There is no mountain without a 4-lane highway, no life unless you appreciate the perfume of dead pianists. I'd take a thermos of coffee on the bus, sandwich wrapped in cellophane, grope to my seat. Gypsy princess decides to stay behind, giving extra room as blinding snow hits elk horns in a restless dream. The smoke of my own sanity shaken by abuse, born over decades, hummingbird twilights the garden in on the way to Xanadu. The last grizzly the last grizzly rambles down. That's almost a tongue twister. The last grizzly rounds. Okay, Neely. I'm trying. The last grizzly rambles down from on high. We pull in late to the depot. I am younger than any old man has the right to be. Neely Presenter.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, our next reader is not on the printed bill, but came to town for this, and we're very happy to have him. And, you know, I can't thank him enough for picking up Neely and becoming his publisher, you know, sort of later in Neely's life when, you know, he deserved to have a publisher, not to have to sweat placing material. And then right before Neely died, I mean, it was within a month maybe of Neely dying, published his Lithic Press published a gorgeous selected poems, which, you know, you got to get your hands on if you can do it, because it's really it's an eye opener, because, you know, a lot of the early Neely stuff has not been available, so it's a great book. So I want to, on that note, welcome publisher of Lithic Press, Danny Rosen. Is that high enough? Let's see.
Yeah, it should be good. Thank you, Garrett. I met Neely for the most part in about 2017 when my pal and a lot of yours pal, Jack Mueller, was dying in my back room in western Colorado. Neely and lots of other people came out to hang out with him in his last weeks and months. And that kind of began a friendship. And as you know, Neely was incredible in his in his incredible self-absorption. And in that, I told him that I thought he was probably the world's most honest man in the way he would do that. And you all know about that. And you all know, along with that, he was incredibly generous. And shortly after Jack passed away, Neely invited me with his partner Jesse to travel with them. And much like this trip, I decided to go at the last minute. I'm so glad I did. I often describe that trip as I took a trip to Neely. Italy was in the background. And on that trip, I really got to know him. And then he always had a manuscript ready to be published. Before the last one actually was published, he was always ready for another one. And he kind of was so generous to me and to Lithic and, my great friend and colleague, Kyle Harvey. Neely brought so many people to us and really expanded the world of Lithic. And we've published so many people here, Sarah and Marina and Jessica and Patrick and Jason Morris and whoever else I'm leaving out, so many others. And it's amazing to have known Neely while we were in Italy, and then subsequently when I would come out here to visit him and Jesse, it was kind of just an ongoing education in what it means to be a poet. It was just incredible to be around somebody who, he wasn't trying to be a poet, he couldn't help it, and he just did it all the time. He was it. And with that in mind, well, we all know how much Neely wanted to have a book from City Lights, and I'm sure he's quite thrilled to finally have it. And saying that, I'm going to read one that's not in that book. There's one Kyle read to me just the other day, and I thought it'd be really nice to read this. It's called Don't Forget Me. When I am gone, think of me as you tinker in the technological forest. Find time to draw my words on your cloud. Think of me as a strip of bark on an ash tree as you lead the bees on a country path. Find my eyes in a profuse outcropping of obsidian far to the south. Give me the price I didn't receive while I was living. I'll put it on the wall of my cloud house. Say my name as the mountain breeze holds steady. Picture my smile as the sun moves over the borderlands. Tell me I have the humor of Han Shan and the brittle strength of Neruda and a touch of dark Dickinson when she delivers at high velocity. Walk through my vowels, take these verbs, spend time on my adjectives, read my garden scenes and crazy crows, recite my bold meditations to the young, forgive my self-absorption. I had ADD and other disorders of nerves and brain. On a newborn shoreline under aged sun, learn my odes by heart. Remember the timbre of my voice. Don't forget me, I was a poet. Come listen when my spirit rises on branches of the last redwood tree. Wipe my tears. Tell me I'm remembered. Lie if you must. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Danny. That was great. Our final reader for tonight is the eventual owner of this place. is our good friend Nicholas James Whittington.
I will not pay off the debts. When I first came to San Francisco in 1983, I didn't know Neely. All you short people, just deal with you. I was saying that when I first came to San Francisco in 1983, I didn't know Neely. It took me about 16 or 17 years to get to know him here. Well, at Bird and Beckett Books, which was a store that was really great around the corner for a while. He was one of the handful of poets that was just around all the time when I was 17 years old, getting to know that. And poetry didn't seem like a big deal. because it was just constant everywhere all the time, which is fantastic. And when I came back to San Francisco started working here again in 2008, I think. And the first thing I ever printed was a broadside of Neely's from his book, which I'm forgetting the title of now. From the Middle Woods. Oh, we have a bunch of them there, which was great. And I was looking for one of those broadsides, and I couldn't find it today. So if anyone has one, I'd love a copy. But Neely was also one of the first people to give me like real generous, concrete feedback on poems. Him and David Meltzer together were sort of the pair, Laurel and Hardy, of my poetry education. So yeah, I'm very sad that he's been gone, and sad that he's still gone, and really happy that these books have come out. Danny, thank you for that selected. It's like incredibly huge and beautiful and great. So I'm going to read just a couple short poems since we're at the end of the night, and then we can just chat about Neely for the rest of the evening and move on. I have to find my poem here. The first one is for Mossab Abu Toba, Palestinian poet, and I don't think Neely would have let the occasion go to decry the travesty that continues to unfold in Gaza. This poem is dated 1 month before he died, February 8th, 2024. He would suggest staying clear, walking along the shore like a child of God, believing in corn stalks, date palms providing fruit and shade from the heat of the day. He would suggest you stay safe in this zoological park we call the earth. Try to raise bees and harvest honey for an amber dawn to break. Some of us are plagued by crows and bluebirds, but you must survive in a world of drones and shrapnel. No wonder your poems are planted by the desolate sea and breathe acrid smoke. I think of Ibn Arabi like an oasis in the wasted caliphate of fear, and one day will bring you to my garden to break bread, drink a cup of wine, and sound out the beauty of a red rose growing in the ruins. And to close it out, at Ferlinghetti's grave. Do you watch him now, shadow bird from Dylan Thomas's death chant? Come to a party at quiet Bolinas, covered in dust. Do you see shadows crossing the meridian mid-afternoon? Say good morning to eucalyptus of the town cemetery. You never know who is buried. I mean, you don't know how someone is buried. Do they keep counsel on waves of earth? If you ask the shadow bird, it will not make a difference. No, you cannot run and will not dream beyond flight. What is it that makes us believe and bury our dead? The love of shadows ruins my sight. Up into dead language and dead ritual, another poet laid to rest in catacombs of elation and regret.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you, everyone, for turning out for this reading. It means a lot to me that, to see Neely's friends gather in his name. And keep in mind, we have part 2 of the book launch will be August 21st, 6 p.m. in the Kerouac Alley next to City Lights. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you to the readers for reading. Thank you to Eric for giving Neely one of his many second homes in San Francisco at Bird and Beckett. Thank you.
the time.